Hi everyone, and welcome tonight. So this is Surya, and I'll be co-host for today. So we're all really excited to welcome you for tonight's session on taming the hallucination, which is making AI-generated documentation trustworthy. So we truly appreciate you taking the time off your busy schedule to join us. So now I'm delighted to introduce our speaker, Gideon Behrensmeyer, who is the head of training and documentation at Island. So Gideon has spent his career simplifying complex ideas and empowering people through clear, effective learning materials. So over the years, he has built and led documentation teams, launched innovative training programs, and developed content strategies that basically reduce friction and improve user experiences. So today he'll be sharing insights on how AI-generated documentation can both be a powerful asset and a potential risk, along with the best practices for ensuring accuracy, building reliable workflows, and making AI a trusted partner in your content strategy. So with that, I hand the floor over to Giri. So Giri, the stage is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you everybody for joining. So, so I want to talk about hallucinations in documentation with AI. One of the reasons this so interests me is I'm initially I'm not like an early adopter of most things, and so when AI first started coming out, I didn't really believe it. And then over the past year, I've been using it more and more and building confidence in it to the point where pretty much AI is infected every aspect of my workflow. So it's a really interesting topic, and I guess I want to address this aspect of the topic because again, as a let's say a skeptic, I was initially hesitant to really adopt AI, and so now that I've started using it, I can see the value of it. I'm hopefully trying to I'll be able to convince you guys to start using it and adopting it yourselves. The one caveat is that you have to be able to deal with the hallucinations, the kind of the mistakes that it makes, because it will make mistakes. And so I'll discuss, the theory, how AI works, and also how to mitigate some of these issues here. So hopefully you come out with some practical knowledge here. So again, just going on with the who am I, so actually we pretty much just covered it right now. So I've been doing the documentation and training, and UX writing for 15 years now at various companies. I'm currently at Island, where we have an enterprise browser. And so there here I'm handling the documentation. We have a training academy as well, and UX writing. And in each one of these areas, I've implemented AI to be able to keep up with the pace that we're growing at, and to scale out all of our content here. So yeah, so let's get into it here. So why should you use AI? So AI is transforming how we create and manage and deliver our documentation. And so again, by integrating AI into technical writing workflows, we can achieve a few things here. So first is speed here. So with speed, AI-powered content or AI can generate content very quickly, specifically drafts. So whereas in the past I would have to sit with my SMEs, think about research content. I still have to do that, but I can quickly generate content, even with a minimal amount of information behind it. So one of my current workflows is I have Zoom sessions with my SMEs. I take that content, I transcribe the session, I record the session, transcribe it, and then I'm able to use templates. So if any of you are familiar with there's the Good Documentation project now that's been releasing documentation templates. So I'm able to use templates from there, train my AI on those templates, have a session about a new feature, let's say feature X here. I then sit with the product manager, I learn about the feature, I record the session, I then transcribe it, I then take that transcription there, pass it to AI and say, hey, remember that template I just used and taught you? Please give me the documentation in that template. And it can draft an initial, it can produce an initial draft here. And so while it's not like 100% accurate and 100% what I need, it's like 80, 90% there. And it saves me a lot of time here. So also AI can give real-time suggestions here. So in terms of terminology, grammar, consistency, all that stuff. So it really sped up my workflow. And that was initially how I got started in using AI. I was out of ideas. I couldn't think of a certain word, and so I was able to use AI to kind of bounce ideas there. So next is efficiency. So a lot of the repetitive tasks I used to have in my day-to-day job, I've replaced with AI. So again, I mentioned the Zoom sessions where I am transcribing everything. I used to sit around and sit with my SMEs and I would take notes. I don't do that anymore. I record the sessions and AI can help generate the notes, transcribe the call for me, and then I can again generate initial drafts from those conversations. And so a lot of the mundane, boring, and simple tasks I've been able to replace with AI, and then that's given me the time to kind of focus on the higher end stuff, focusing on how to structure my content, identifying what problems my customers are having. And so I'm working less on the drafting content and more on what issues that my customers have. And then also scalability. So AI can help us handle, there we go. AI can help us handle large amounts of content here. So I can generate API documentation from code samples or vice versa. I can auto-fill in sections. I can draft error messages based on content, all sorts of things. And we can also translate documentation using AI. So there's the scalability aspect of it. So again, these are kind of the main reasons why I'm using AI, and I think you should as well. So speed, efficiency, and scalability. That being said, there are a few downsides here. So AI confidently generates false or misleading information. So if you ever come across people who are really good liars, sometimes they can convince you just by confidently saying something that sounds so idiotic. AI has this ability to confidently spit out information that's false or misleading. AI can also, generate real world examples that aren't actually real world. They generate errors in documentation. They can misstate or create AI parameters that don't exist, CLI commands that don't exist. They can generate security or incorrect security recommendations that are flawed. And then AI can also struggle with contextual understanding. And so if you need if you're looking to draft a UX copy, for example, and you need to be in a certain tone or written in a certain way, it can't always give you that sort of stuff here. So those are kind of the high-level downsides of AI documentation. I can also give you here a few examples here. So let me walk through some of these here. So we have hallucinated APIs, we have imagined features, we have fake recommendations, misleading code, non-existent errors, and then fake best practices. So I'll give a few examples of each of these now. So hallucinated API. So let's say I go to ChatGPT, I give it some content, and I say, what are the parameters for the get users endpoint in GitHub's REST API? So it may add some of these parameters here. So include deleted. So if I want to delete users, for example, or I want to limit the amount of users, these parameters here, the endpoint exists, get users exist. These parameters aren't part of it. So this is kind of a hallucinated API parameter here. Another example, so imagine features. So if I go to ChatGPT again and say, how do I use the smart autofill feature in Microsoft Excel 2023? It doesn't exist. So ChatGPT will return and give you some instructions, go to data and then go to smart autofill. The feature just doesn't exist. So another example here, so fake recommendations similar to the previous one. So what are the best ways to store passwords in Python applications? So you can use the MD5 hashing with Salt for secure password storage, which sounds it's a very nice and confident, detailed answer here. The problem is that MD5 hashing is broken. It's not really secure anymore. So if you were to base your Python application on this, you are potentially exposing yourself. So misleading code. So show me Python code to read a CSV file with pandas. Again, the command itself, isn't really doesn't exist. It's not accurate. Non-existent error messages. So how do I fix this error message? Access denied in Windows, and it will say run this command, check this, fmrc. It doesn't actually resolve the issue. And then on just a final one here, so imaginary best practices. So what's the best way to structure content? Always use exactly 5 headings in every section for optimal readability. As technical writers, I think we all know that having 5 headings in a section for optimal readability is completely false. It's just an imaginary best practice that ChatGPT or sorry, any other AI platform just created here. So why does this happen? Because again, I love AI. It's helping me a lot, but again, it has its flaws here. So it's necessary to understand these flaws here. So AI models don't really have a true understanding. They're based on probabilities here. So AI models like ChatGPT don't know facts. They don't actually learn anything. They basically predict the next word based on patterns in training data. So they look at documentation, let's say Amazon's documentation, for example, for S3. It may look at that documentation and assume that the same policies and practices apply to other vendors. And so when you ask, how should I write out these instructions, it may base it on S3's examples. In reality, that might not be relevant for what you're documenting. AI guesses based on probabilities. So again, AI is choosing statistically likely words, even if they're wrong. So there's a trade-off between confidence and accuracy. And then the training data may be outdated or wrong. Keep in mind that AI is based on snapshots of information here. So what might have been relevant, a year ago, 6 months ago, ChatGPT is releasing models, updated models periodically every few months. What might have been relevant a few months ago may not be relevant today. And so the information that AI is based on might already be out of date or just plain wrong. And if so, because it's based on probabilities and has no true understanding, your responses are going to be inaccurate. So mitigation strategies here. So these are some high-level ways to kind of mitigate hallucinations in AI. So I'll go into more specific ones afterwards, but in general here, so you have to verify everything here. So my current workflow is if we have a feature X coming out. I research that. I can research it with AI. I can then sit with the product manager, get the information, transcribe it, and then feed that to AI, have it generate a draft based on templates that I've already fed the AI platform, and then send it back to my, I review it myself to see if there's anything that I can catch. And then I pass it back to my SME and say, hey, please verify that this information is correct. In this case, you should use AI for drafts, not for final content here. So again, you have to verify everything. And AI can help you with the drafting. I would be hesitant to use it for a final content, even if I review it. I always go back to my SMEs and say, hey, you're the expert. Please verify that this information is correct. Fact check your code, APIs, and security advice. So again, I highlighted some issues here that ChatGPT had. You should always, again, go back to your SMEs and fact check everything, because it can, AI can invent APIs, it can invent parameters, it can invent recommendations. And then if you're going to base your documentation for whatever reason on AI and not fact check it, make sure you provide clear disclaimers saying, hey, be careful about this. I would also be hesitant, maybe for higher level things, but if you were documenting instructions for pilots of airliners, I would not really rely on AI documentation. If it's something critical, life and death, make sure you're reviewing everything, you're doing it yourself here. So with that said, how to identify and correct AI-generated errors here. So I want to get into more specifics here. So the common failure points in AI-generated documentation. So one, inaccurate technical details. So one of the most common and then perhaps dangerous aspects of AI is generating incorrect technical details. So I just threw out the example of if you're documenting information for pilots, that's critical information here. So the technical details are very, very important. So it can be incorrect syntax, it can be missing or incorrect parameters in API documentation, it can be fabricating command line instructions, whatever. AI doesn't truly understand what it's doing. Again, it's giving you suggestions based on probability here. It's essentially guessing. It's taking educated guesses based on content and data that it's already been fed. So you have to be very, very careful here. Next is a mismatched tone and style inconsistencies. So one of the things I like to do is I also fed my AI our style guide. And so I can say, you know, hey, please write this documentation according to the style, the tone and style defined in our style guide. And while it will work and provide me documentation in a professional tone for advanced technical users, sometimes you'll still get this happy marketing sort of tone that isn't quite the professional tone you were looking for, or vice versa. So if you were a marketing person, maybe the tone is too technical, or it's not happy enough. So again, it's a common error here that, again, because AI doesn't understand what it's doing, it's looking at how copy was used in the past by other people. It can give you a mismatch in tone. So you have to keep that in mind. Even if you fed it your style guide and you explained what tone you want, you still have to. It's a pretty common error here. And then again, fabricated reference and citations. So fabricated references and citations. So again, AI has a tendency to invent sources. So one of the things that I do in my documentation is I have at the bottom of my templates, I have a section on, you know, for related sources. A lot of times the AI will make up related sources based on other documentation sites. So, you know, here I work at Island. If we have another, let's say a competitor who also does enterprise browsers called, you know, competitor A, their AI may be looking at their documentation and saying, hey, they have related articles on this feature, and it's called XYZ. So I'll get a reference to a document that I supposedly have. It just doesn't exist because, again, ChatGPT is looking at how others have done it in the past and then basing that on what it's recommending to you here. So strategies for spotting and fixing hallucinations here. So again, and this is something that, you know, I've been going on about quite a bit here. So the first step is correcting AI errors is to always cross-check its output here. So check it with trusted sources here. So you can always, inside your prompts, you can say, please check this information according to Amazon S3's documentation located here. Or you can, your internal documentation as well, saying, hey, please cross-check this information in our documentation here. Or again, you can go back to your SMEs, like the knowledge experts here, and cross-reference the AI generated content with them. At the end of the day, this is a must, this is a necessary step. So the AI can take you so far, but you're still going to have to double check everything. There's just no way around it at the moment. So using AI critically, prompt engineering for accuracy. So there are lots of Udemy courses on prompt engineering, and there are multiple books out now. And I can give you an example here of how differently prompts work here. So if I'm currently in my role here building lots of courses. And so for a course, you know, I may have 5 lessons within a course, and I need a script for each one of those lessons here. If I write a single prompt saying, hey, I'm an e-learning designer or instructional designer, I need to build a course for X. It needs to have these 5 lessons. It needs to be in a professional tone according to what I defined in the style guide. Please provide me with scripts. It will give me scripts, but the scripts will be a bit shorter. They might not all, the tone and style might break down throughout the lessons. However, if you were to go into your prompts and break the prompt down, saying, hey, I'm an e-learning designer, instructional designer, I need to build 5 lessons. In this first lesson, it needs to be focused on this. The more detailed and shorter, let's say, the more focused your prompts are, the better the information you'll get, and the more content you'll get. So I would be there are whole books on prompt engineering here, but it's one thing you should definitely look into. Again, there are Udemy courses about it. But the more you break down and focus your prompts, the better the information you'll get. So again, use prompts to critically evaluate the AI content here. And then again, applying structured authoring techniques to limit AI drift here. So if your content is structured properly, it's a lot easier for AI to learn here. So I'll give you an example of how I've implemented this. So I am speaking with my SMEs here about a feature X. Let's say the the template has an overview of what the feature is, prerequisites, and then the steps for implementing or configuring that feature. And then at the end, the related sources. What I'll do is I'll interview my SME about the feature, and I'll say, hey, please give me an overview of this feature. Tell me what it is, what its use cases are, what the benefits are, why we created it, and how it's useful, what it's called, etc. I'll then in the interview say, okay, but what are the prerequisites that the reader has to know to be able to implement this feature? And then I'll say, okay, now that we've done that, what are the steps that we need to do? Show me the steps to configure this feature. And then, are there any other related resources that the learner might need to, the reader might need to know? And I structure my interviews with the SMEs to replicate the template in my documentation. So I'm structuring the interview to match the structure of my document. And so then when I transcribe the interview and feed it into AI, it's already matching my template. And so it's helping limit the amount of AI drift that we have. It's a really useful technique, and I saw a huge difference in the variations I used to get. So if I had an unstructured interview with an SME and they just told me about the feature, and then we said, okay, it's really easy to configure, just go to this screen and look at the fields, it's all fine. The content I would get back from that would be generated from AI wouldn't be as useful. But now if I have a very structured interview and then feed it to AI according to my template, the information I get back, that initial draft, is a lot more accurate. It's a lot further along. Okay, so now building AI verification workflows here. So again, human in the loop. So balancing AI efficiency with human oversight. So again, the idea is here AI can help me speed up the amount of time it takes me to generate drafts, to generate content. But again, I still need a human to kind of regulate how much, how fast it's going. It's kind of the conundrum of you can work so fast and then you'll make a lot of mistakes. The same applies for AI. If I was to, before the AI days, to run and document a feature without knowing much about it, just trying to complete the assignment as fast as possible, I would have a lot of errors. The same applies here. So you need to bring in the human in the loop, so you can balance the efficiency with the oversight here. And then we have automated and manual verification techniques, and I'll go into each one of these in a second. And then we have AI-assisted validation tools. So again, human in the loop. So you should look at AI as an assistant here, so not an autonomous writer. And this is, I think, one of the a lot of technical writers were concerned that, hey, AI is going to replace us. I know when I joined my company here, they actually still weren't bought into why we still need technical writers anymore. They thought AI could just do the whole thing. And so again, AI can be an assistant. It's not an autonomous writer here. So it can generate drafts. It can help us summarize content. It can offer suggestions. So if I'm also responsible for writing microcopy within our platform, it offers me a lot of suggestions. Like, I'm not the best UX writer there is in the world. AI can actually help me, come up with better terms, shorter, more succinct phrases, and make our make our UX a lot more intuitive. So again, it's very valuable for suggesting stuff. But the final documentation, again, it still requires a writer and an SME to come in and really check it out to make sure that the templates are being applied, that the style and tone are consistent, and that the technical aspect of the documentation is accurate here. And then the role of SMEs and technical writers in reviewing this, again, this is exactly just what I explained here. So SMEs and technical writers, come in. They can, AI is accelerating the process, but you still have to have everything validated by the SMEs for the technical aspect, and then the technical writer for the knowledge aspect of it. So the automated and manual verification techniques. So style and terminology enforcement. So just historically in my career, I've been horrible at applying style guides to my documentation. So I love to go in, learn about a new feature, write it, and then the style guide is there, but it's not always. I've never been the strongest at enforcing the style guide. With the AI, it's actually very easy to take that documentation, put it into AI, and say, hey, it needs to apply to these standards. And again, it might not be 100% there, but it's a lot better than I can do personally. So maybe there are others who are a lot stronger at this. This is one of my weak sides here. So again, AI is very, very useful at this. So you can actually use AI to improve and validate how you're writing your documentation in terms of style and terminology and tone. Fact checking against existing documentation. So while I said AI has a habit, or at least it's possible that AI will invent parameters, will invent references, all this sort of stuff. You can still use AI to fact check existing documentation. So if your AI is connected to your documentation, to your knowledge base, to your training center, whatever it is, you can use it and say, hey, according to our documentation here, according to Island's documentation, please fact check this document and make sure everything is accurate. Make sure that the relevant ports, the numbers of the ports that are supposed to be open are correct. Make sure that that there are no missing prerequisites. AI can be used to fact check. So while it may generate hallucinations, if the training content, the training material is accurate and already fact checked, you can use AI to cross-reference your new documentation. And then in implementing structured review cycles. So a structured review workflow ensures that AI-generated pieces go through the proper validations here. So again, I talked about my workflow here. So I'm learning about a feature. I'm feeding AI the template. I'm using my discussions and interviews with SMEs to help generate the content. But then I'm also having my documentation at the end of the day QA'd by QA, by support, by the product manager, who's ever asking for it. So again, you need to make sure that the manual parts of implementing your implementing AI are still there here. Okay. So, oh, sorry here. Let's see. Seem to have skipped a page here. So again, so AI assisted validation tools. So use your AI here to review content instead of just generating it, and then automating the checks for consistency, completeness, and accuracy. One of the other things that I haven't mentioned thus far is I'm also using AI to identify gaps within my documentation. So if I have a document that I've completed here, whether it was drafted by AI or not, I can also, again, fact check it and say, hey, is this document complete? Is it missing anything? Are there any weaknesses in my documentation? And our AI is also connected to our support system. So it can learn from tickets that our customers are sending, and then see what kind of gaps that we have in what kind of gaps our users have in their own knowledge here. And so when they come across our documentation, like our AI is already trained on what kind of information our users are missing, and so I can fact check my documentation and also check it for completeness, and say, hey, this documentation is it complete according to how our users, what kind of issues our users are having here, and so I can try to reduce the number of support tickets by trying to fill in gaps in documentation based on what kind of support tickets we've already had in the past year. Okay, so so the future of AI-assisted content and governance. So again, one of the things I tried to do in this discussion here is try to encourage you guys to look at AI and try to implement it yourself. Again, I talk about the downsides of it a lot, but the fact is, it's changed how I've worked over the past year. The amount of content I'm able to produce, the amount of tasks I'm able to handle is 3-4 times what I used to be able to handle in the past. And so our company is growing quite quickly here. I'm managing up to like 20 plus PMs. Each have their own features. I'm able to keep up with the documentation because I'm able to shortcut a lot of the mundane stuff that I had to do in the past with AI. So while AI won't take you 100% of the way, it's not going to replace technical writers. it helps me draft documentation, summarize documentation, audit the documentation, identify gaps within the documentation, write it, apply the consistency and the tone and the style guides that we have set up, put it in the templates that I need to. It's really reduced the amount of like the burden that I've had on myself here. So again, so I talk about the downsides, but the pluses are just, you know, by far outnumber them. You just have to be able to handle it and manage it. And so what's next? So again, if I'm taking a step back and looking at the future of technical writing, you know, a year or 2 years ago, you know, people were convinced that AI was going to replace technical writers. And a lot of the product managers I work with, I think still have that kind of impression. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think maybe the number of technical writers that are needed in the world will probably be reduced a bit. But the amount of content that we can handle now, the amount of information that we can do has grown significantly. So I can produce a lot more content, and I can actually focus on a lot of things that AI can't handle. So analyzing what sort of issues our customers are having, mapping things out in advance, thinking about better ways to improve the documentation. For example, adding videos within our platform, for example, or in-app documentation. Those kind of things, AI can't really replace me. So AI is helping me generate content, generate drafts, speed up my writing process, fix errors, fix you know, grammar, all the kind of grammar issues I used to have. But it's not, at the end of the day, going to replace me. So it makes me a lot more efficient, a lot more productive, but it doesn't actually it doesn't basically replace me. So I think the way this is going right now is AI will probably get better, it will probably get more accurate, but it's never going to replace us at the end of the day. So if you were concerned that AI is going to replace you, I really wouldn't be. It's just going to make you more efficient. It's going to help you produce a lot more content. It'll make you a better writer, but it's not going to, I don't see AI actually ever replacing us.
Amazing, great. So, yeah, again, to everyone who tuned in, thank you for taking the time to be here and of course, you know, if you have any more questions or want to learn more about Document360, feel free to reach out to myself or to Gideon. So yeah, so we'll be back with another session soon. So, wish you all a wonderful day ahead and see you next time. Thank you, Gideon. Thank you all.
Well, thank you. Take care.